My parents were both civil rights workers from Danville, Virginia. My father was the secretary of the local NAACP. When I was in elementary school, the Poor People's March came through my hometown on its way to Washington. And my parents opened their doors so that people who were marching would have a place to lay their head. So I grew up in an environment of social justice. I grew up in an environment of making sure that you don't see yourself as somehow separate from the other, but that there's no self without the other. I just remember myself as that little girl in Danville, Virginia, who couldn't go to the major public city library because I'm black. I walked past that library to the black library that was in the size of a living room and a kitchen or a dining room in someone's house, because that's where the books were. But I had a thirst for learning, and I was determined to learn. While these students' background does not mirror mine, what I see there is that they have a thirst for learning. So how do we make sure they have the opportunity, the space for them to learn? So I call upon, as I said to you, who I am, what I've experienced, to try and move this community forward. And in moving this community forward, change is hard, I know that. Some people will be on board with the change that's occurring. Some people will not. Regardless, we try and bring both groups along as best we can. Hamline is different. There are a couple of institutions in Minnesota who might be more like us, but we're different. We have a large Muslim contingent in Minnesota. One of the larger contingents in the US is right here in Minnesota. Most institutions don't have that. So you've got to now pay attention to who's coming to you and how do you lead within that context. And we're learning together. So will we make mistakes? Absolutely. But if we don't learn from the mistakes, that's when the problem arises. We have to learn from the mistakes we make. I return to the words of John Wesley over and over and over again, when he says, do all the good you can. We have been charged by our founder to care. That's how I see that. So that's remained my focus. And I don't want to relitigate the academic freedom versus care conversation, because I don't see it as an either or. And when you read my document, you'll see that I never say that. I see them as coexisting, and both very important to the fabric of this institution. Faculty need to be able to do what they need to do because they have the academic background. But in doing that, you need to bring the students along, because it's the students, for the most part, who are going to be the leaders in generating new knowledge. They're the ones who are going to do it. So how we bring them along in this space matters.